Teacher Talking Sports, what it does, what do, how we live. And let's continue the series I've been doing. NFL all-time GOAT for each franchise. In my eyes, who is the best player in each NFL franchise's history? I've been doing these in alphabetical order, and today we are landing on the Miami Dolphins. Now, the Miami Dolphins have only been known by that name and have been a franchise since 1966, so they got 59 seasons of NFL play. So, before I get into the GOAT, I've been first revisiting the Mount Rushmores I've done. So, 2 off seasons ago, I did my NFL Mount Rushmores by teams, 4 best player in each NFL's franchise's history. Last off-season, I did my NFL Mount Rushmores by position, the 4 best players in each position in NFL history. Again, subjective in my eyes. So before I get into the GOAT, I revisit those in all these videos. And say if I would make any changes to the team Mount Rushmore. For the Dolphins, alphabetical order by last name, I included Bob Greasy, Hall of Famer, 92, 56, and 3 starting record as a quarterback. Larry Little, named to 5 straight first-team All-Pros as a guard from 1971 to 1975. Dan Marino, Hall of Fame, legendary quarterback, 147 and 93 record as a starter. And Jason Taylor, who totaled 131 sacks over 13 seasons with the Dolphins. Now, I'll keep it as is, but I would say if I did continue doing research, I could probably talk myself into either putting Larry Zonka or Dwight Stevenson on the Mount Rushmore, maybe over Larry Little. Definitely a close call, but some other honorable mentions that I had included were Mercury Morris, Jim Kick, Jake Scott, Sam Madison, Dick Anderson, Jim Langer, Nat Moore, Mark Clayton, Mark Duper, Ed Newman, Richmond Webb, Bob Kuchenberg, Ricky Williams, Paul Warfield, Cameron Wake, and Reggie Roby, to name a few. But who do I consider to be the best Dolphin in team history? I have to go with quarterback Dan Marino. Now, Marino was selected with the 27th overall pick in the 1983 NFL Draft for the Dolphins. Played 17 seasons in the NFL, all with Miami. In 1984, he was named the MVP of the league, first ballot Hall of Famer in 2005. Marino also had MVP finishes of third twice in his career. Offensive Player of the Year finishes second, third, and fourth on top of his Offensive Player of the Year in 1984. He was named to 9 Pro Bowls, was a 3-time first-team All-Pro. Let's take a look at his season-by-season numbers via his Pro Football Reference page. So as I mentioned, a 147.93 career record, 61,361 touchdowns, 420 touchdowns. Now, of course, offenses, the passing game's more prevalent than it was back then. Rules make it easier for the passers, but still, all-time, Marino ranks 6th in passing yards and 7th in passing touchdowns for his career. You see bold ink all over his page as he led the league in yards 5 times in his career, passing touchdowns 3 times, and rating once. That 1984 season could be argued as maybe the best season ever by a quarterback. Unfortunately, it ended with a Super Bowl loss. But for the era, incredible. In 16 games, 5,084 yards, 48 touchdowns, smashed both of the previous records before he surpassed them. And it took well over 2 decades for those records to be broken. Still amongst the all-time leaders, those 48 touchdowns are the 5th most in a season in NFL history. Marino unfortunately did not win a Super Bowl. A lot of people see him as the best quarterback to never win a Super Bowl. But there's a lot of people put him on the all-time greats. I remember I did a video, Joe Montana, saying he believes Dan Marino is the best quarterback of all time. Great player off the field as well. 1988, Walter Payton, Man of the Year. I think most Dolphins fans, even without the Super Bowl, would almost agree in unison that Marino is the best player in franchise history. Again, shame he didn't win a Super Bowl. Never really had a running game. Never had the greatest of defenses, but always had the Dolphins as one of the better teams. He had six seasons where he won double-digit games, and again, 54 games over 500 for his career. But let me know in the comments, do you agree that Dan Marino is the best player in Miami Dolphins history? Some With all these videos, I've been taking a look at the active roster and saying if I believe anyone could either overtake the GOAT, become the new GOAT of the franchise, or, potentially at least make the Mount Rushmore. Now, I don't really see anyone surpassing Marino, but, you got a guy like, Tyreek Hill came a little bit later, played his first few seasons with the Chiefs. Actually, more than his first six. But his first two seasons have been historical, basically. On defense, they got some good defensive players, but a guy like Christian Wilkins signed with the Raiders. Xavier Howard was released, four-time Pro Bowler, one-time first-team All-Pro, maybe an honorable mention. Jalen Ramsey, of course, played a bunch of seasons prior to joining the Dolphins. Otherwise, Jalen Waddle off to a good start in his career. Can he overtake like the Dupers and Claytons and Warfields as the best wide receiver in team history? 3,385 yards in his first three seasons. But again, Tua, can he be a Mount Rushmore guy? Maybe overtake a Greasy, but Greasy did win two Super Bowls. So even hard to see him doing that. But let me know your thoughts. Do you agree with the Mount Rushmore? Do you agree with Marino as the franchise's best player? Tomorrow, I'll be doing the Minnesota Vikings. I already know that's not going to be an easy one. I have to do a little more research before I come to the conclusion as to who I believe is the best player in franchise history. Anyhow, don't forget to subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe. Like the video, share the video, hit the bell for notifications. I'm out.